Cherry Lily, and in this video, me and my friend, we are gonna talk about our presentation about our group project for computer programming subject. In this project, we are required to develop a C program for only one machine in UTHM Mechanical Lab. So our chosen machine is bending machine. We are successfully developed 3 codes for 3 process involving V bending, C bending, and L bending. So all the codes program for this process will be presented further by my group.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, my name is Muhammad Abdul Malik and my matric number is AD180264. Today I'm gonna do the introduction. Basically I'm gonna start with introducing the machine and what the machine is. The machine is the human-made device that uses power to apply force and control movement to perform an action. So, introduction: the bending machines. A bending machine is primarily used for forming a bend on the workpiece. The machines use bending tools for this process. Different type of bending machines are available. Normally, material sheet bending machine, bus bar bendings, cutting, punching machine, hydraulic and mechanical profile bending machine, hydraulic and motorized by bending machine, sheet folding machine, sheet material bending machine, pipe bending machine, and so on. The sheet bending machine is chosen for creating a bend on the sheet material. And material pieces are first fixed on the clamping device that holds them during the entire operation. So there is two type of basic bending. The first one is the V bending, and the second one L bending and C bending. Bending force for V bendings. The V bending is the most common method, is known as V bending, in which is punch and die are V shaped. The punch pushes the sheet into the V shaped groove in the V die, cause it to bend. So here is the thickness and pressure, power, force, and length. So the formula for V bendings: B minus V without ejectors bad equal C time B time T square time T max over all the length. For bending force for L bending and C bending, the L bending force formula: P minus less without ejector bad equal total or bracket C over 3 time B time T square time T max over L kgf. And C bending, the force formula: P minus less than without ejector bad equal to max all bracket C over 3x B time T square time T max all over L kgf.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In this video, I'm going to talk about our group operational table. First thing first, this is bending force table. It guides us to identify the suitable dimension for our group metal bending. To make it more clear, let's say I have 2 mm thick sheet and I want to bend it. I also use a 2 mm inside radius IR. I can now see that the minimum flange length is at 0.5 mm for such a bend, so I have to keep it in mind when designing. The required die width is 12 mm and tonnage per meter is 22. The lowest common bench capacity is around 100 tons. My workpiece bending is 3 meter, so the overall needed force is 3 times 22 equal to 66 tons. Therefore, even a simple bench with enough room to bend 3-meter pieces will do the job. However, this table applies to construction steel with a yield strength around 400 megapascal. For aluminium, the force value can be divided by 2, while for stainless steel it is 1.7 times higher than the data displayed above. Next part is the type of operational process. Our group had used these three processes, which is V bending, L bending or H bending, and C bending or U bending. For V bending, it is the most common method. The punch and die are V-shaped. The punch push the sheet into the V-shaped groove in the V die, causing it to bend. Next, for the L bending process or H bending process, it involves cantilever loading. A pressure pad is used to apply a force to hold the base of the part against the die, while the punch forces the part yield and bend over the edge of the die. Edge bending is limited to bends at 90 degrees or less. Then for C bending or U bending process, it is similar with V bending process in which the punch and die cavity are U-shaped.
Yes, Assalamualaikum and good day. So now we are going to explain about the coding for our project. So firstly, we will do the function of float to calculating the length of VLC, which is the different bending that we're going to calculate along the programs today. So firstly, we're calculating the length by inserting the value of the bend. We will get the length by inserting with the formula based on different conditions, which is we have in here we have three conditions. After the three conditions, we will get each value for the length. So moving on, we're going to calculate the coefficient for V, which is the V bending itself. By the coefficient of V, we will use the value of the C, which we're going to use the given formula. As you can see, there's three conditions here. So after inserting the value and getting into the right formula, we will get the value of C, which is the coefficient of bending. Next, we will calculate the coefficient for L and C. So it's the same as coefficient of V before. There's a few conditions that we have to meet. After inserting the conditions, the values of the B itself, we will get the value of the bending C. Once we have settled with the C, which is the coefficient bending, we will now do the calculation for the K factor. Whereas for the K, there are two conditions, and by using the formula, whereas that includes the bending and the coefficients, we will get two different value for the K, which is the factor. So once we have finished with the factor, we will proceed to the float of the function for the bending force. For the bending force, as you can see, we have made a three separate function. This is due because there's a difference in the data type and the difference in the formula itself. Hence, it is not compatible with the float that we have made before. By concerning about the conditions itself, we have made three separate functions to calculate the bending force for V, L and C separately. For each of the bending force, you can see that different bending force have each different formula that the values will be keyed in after inserting the values. Respectively for VLC, we will get the value of P. Next is the ejector pad. We will calculate the ejector pad value for our coding. The selections between V bending, L bending, C bending. From the first one, we have the ejector pad options, whereas until they are using ejector pad or not. If they are using the ejector pad, they will type A and it will be directed to the formula, then we'll get the value of P. If the users using the ejector pad and there's no ejector pad in there, hence it will be print F and it will be displayed that there is no ejector pad. Next is the LB. LB means for the bend allowance. For this one, the user will be entering the values that consist of the A, B, P, K and C and being inserted into the formula. It will be processed and we get the value for LB.
Okay, I will continue the rest. Hazim has presented to us the function before the main function. and I will explain about the main function that we create. And here is the main function. At the main function, we would like to show the process and make the user choose the process based on what they have done. And here we use array to list the process, and using the looping, we list the process between V bending, L bending, C bending, bend allowance, and exit. There is it I. When we key in I, we will go to the V bending, which is there is also a looping there for the values to come up to the list. And for the first value is the B, which is bending length, and the second value is T, which is thickness, and the third one is T max, which is tensile strength, and the next is ejector pad, which is we put an yes or no. And then after the values, the process has been chosen and the values has been entered, the next process will be showing and calculating the length, the coefficient, the bending force without the ejector pad and with ejector pad by using the function that has been created before the main function. And then if user enter 2 on the process, it will go to the L bending, which is pretty same with V bending, which also showing the value B, T, T max, and also ejector pad. And here is the calling function where we call the function that has been created for the main block. And for the third process, which is C bending, also similar to the L bending, and it is pretty same when because of the coefficient does use the same function. And for the fourth choice, which is I equal to 4, it will calculate the bend allowance, which is there will be shown the value of A, which is bend angle, R for bend radius, and T for thickness. And here is the calling function to the function that has been created before the main block. And if users enter 0 at the process selection, it will show exit.
Alright, so for now, after discussing and presenting about our coding, so we have discovered that there's a few limitations when it comes to build our program for the bending machine. So firstly, as you can see here, number one, if there's two or more identical items, which is in our case, for example, the ejector pad, it will be difficult to determine the output. Secondly, to obtaining the bending force, we are not sure whether to use an ejector pad or not. After that, whether to calculate the ejector pad values. Thirdly, when inserting the values, the point of return may be altered depending on whether the data are inserted inside or outside. And lastly, our last limitation is due to the different data type, formula, and the fact that using integer does not align with float, we must write a separate function to find B.
Even our group successfully developed the C program for the process. However, we have limitation, such as if there are two or more identical items, such as ejector pad, it will be difficult to determine the output. And one more is after containing the bending force, we are not sure whether to use an ejector pad or not after that. We can conclude from this group project, we can say that the software is effective because it can run successfully, and this computer programming subject is very useful for us students and need to be learn more about this. And the software also run successfully the process with the C codes input. So that's all from us. Thank you.